Mark Few has 750 career wins, and not many of them were more fun than what Gonzaga just did to Kentucky on Friday night in Nashville.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Happy Friday, happy weekend, happy Gonzaga fans here. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to break down this incredible win for Mark Few and the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Live edition here of the Locked On Zags podcast. A little later than usual, about 20 minutes or so after the game wrapped up, but what an incredibly fun game that we just saw between Gonzaga and Kentucky. I should clarify, fun if you are a fan of the Gonzaga Bulldogs, a complete and utter disaster if you are a fan of the Kentucky Wildcats. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, folks. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, so download FanDuel today. Well, folks, Gonzaga blasted Kentucky on Friday, like we said. We're going to talk about the good from this game. We're going to talk about the bad from this game, which there's not going to be a whole lot that we need to talk about there. We're going to look at our pregame keys to victory, how they played out on Friday in Nashville. And then we're going to close out the show getting you ready, because Gonzaga does not have they had 9 days to wallow in the loss to Michigan. They got only one full day before their next game as they play North Florida on Sunday. We'll get you ready by talking about that Ospreys team. But instead, before we get there, we got to talk about this incredibly fun game. Gonzaga dominates Kentucky. 94-59 is the final score. And honestly, as much of a dominant win as that is, it almost doesn't even feel like the score is reflective of how great Gonzaga was in this game. They were up 19-2, and it basically never got closer than that. A complete and utter demolition from Gonzaga. They basically did exactly to Kentucky what Michigan did to them last Wednesday in the third and final game of the Players Era Festival. Now, of course, this Kentucky team did not have the excuse that Gonzaga had of, it was our third game in 3 days. Kentucky just had a couple of days off after having played North Carolina. They didn't have to travel very far. Gonzaga traveled 3/4 the way across the country and dominated all across the board. The Zags became the first AP-ranked team to lose by 30 and win by 30 in back-to-back games. Both of those, of course, also coming against AP-ranked teams in Michigan and Kentucky. The good from this game, again, pretty much everything, but we got to start with Graham Ike. Graham Ike had just 1 point on a technical free throw in the game against Michigan. And I think for anybody who knows Graham, who's followed him from a personality perspective, it never felt likely that he was going to do anything other than dominate in this game. Like, the bounce back potential for him felt so high. He's not somebody who was going to wallow and was going to let that compound and become a bigger issue. And he came out absolutely dominant in this game, finished the contest with 28 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, was 11 of 18 from the field, 1 of 1 from 3, 5 of 6 from the stripe, just dominated. Mark Few said this once, I think a few weeks ago, I think it was after the Creighton game, that he talked about how effective and efficient Graham is particularly impressive considering how difficult the shots that he takes are. And I think that that's a really important detail to talk about with Graham. He still misses bunnies every once in a while. In fact, he missed a few early in this game before basically not missing for the second 3/4 of this game, but he takes those tough mid-range jumpers, those little floaters up with defenders right in his face. Like, he takes a lot of tough shots and did so in this game, and he's burying 16-foot jumpers with a 7-foot guy right in his face. Like, he makes it look easy, and it is not easy what he does night in and night out. Braden Huff also made it look real easy in this game. The fact that Braden Huff had 20 points on 9 of 11 shooting, and it wasn't even Gonzaga's best front court player in this game, is a testament to how ridiculous these two are when they play together. Braden Huff got whatever shot he wanted. They got him the ball. He was going over that right shoulder. It's just absolute money every single time. He had that little push shot about 15 feet out. He was completely unstoppable. And we kind of knew coming into this game that Kentucky was going to struggle. They have one good defender, and he's a true freshman in Malachi Moreno. They did not have Mo Diabate or Jaden Quaintance. And so it was kind of like whoever's Moreno's not guarding should be able to dominate. And that's what happened. Braden Huff dominated because Malachi Moreno was guarding Graham Ike. The problem for Kentucky is that Graham Ike also dominated while Malachi Moreno was guarding him. It ultimately led to Gonzaga having a 46-18 advantage in points in the paint, nearly triple the amount of points in the paint for Gonzaga. We knew this was going to be an advantage for the Zags, but I don't think we could have predicted that they would have had this dominant of a performance down on the block, not only offensively, but defensively as well. Kentucky's offense was just listless. And look, there's another fantastic show hosted by the great Lance Daw. If you want to listen to what happened for Kentucky, because I am sure that he's going through it right now. This team looks in dire straits, and that is absolutely a part of the equation for Gonzaga, is that they beat a team that is in complete and total disarray right now. But it was not just because of Kentucky's anemic offense. Gonzaga's defense was great. The Cats shot 27% in this game, 16 of 60. They were 7 of 34 from three, which is 21%. That's an awful three-point percentage, but they were also just 9 of 26 on twos. They made 9 two-point field goals in this game. That is horrific. And it's a lot to do with Kentucky and their shot diet and their lack of point guard play and blah, blah, blah. But it also, and I thought that the broadcast maybe didn't do a good enough job of, hey, like Gonzaga's defense is really good. And every time Kentucky played poorly on offense, it was about Kentucky and it was about their problems. And I thought Gonzaga's defense deserved a little bit more credit for what they were able to do in this game. The point guards played excellent. Mario St. Saperi had to sit for most of the first half because of foul trouble, but Braden Smith was constantly knocking the ball loose, getting out in transition, shot the ball well. They played the passing lanes really well, just made life complete hell for Kentucky offensively all game long. Also a great bounce back performance from Adam Miller. Shout out Adam Miller. Wanted to give him some flowers here because I think his game's going to get kind of lost in the shuffle here, but he was benched. He'd been starting pretty consistently for Gonzaga. Does not get into the starting lineup in this game after some poor performances in Vegas. Really wasn't good. Nobody was good in that game against Michigan, but he's been struggling to find his outside shot. Gonzaga benches him. A lot of fifth-year seniors maybe wouldn't take getting benched all that well. And yet Adam Miller has one of his best games in a Gonzaga uniform. He scores 11 points off the bench, 3 of 5 from 3, he had 4 boards, really responded well. And I think that's a testament to his character and the character of so many of the players on this Gonzaga roster, that they're here to win basketball games. And if that means coming off the bench, if that means starting, if that means playing 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be, they're ready to do it. And I think you got a good example of that on Friday night in the way that Adam Miller handled getting benched after his performances in Vegas. Also, I think a big key for Gonzaga and a big success for them in this game was how quick of a start they got out to. You're talking about your first game in 9 days. You're talking about a game where you traveled over 1,000 miles to go to Nashville. You're talking about a place that was pretty quiet after the first few minutes, but it wasn't early. That place was full of blue. It was Rupp northwest, I guess. What Rupp south? I don't know my geography all that well. It was a very, very blue crowd for Kentucky, and Gonzaga did not let that bother them whatsoever. Again, 19-2 start. Kentucky did not make their first field goal of this game until the 11:04 mark. They went nearly 9 minutes without a single field goal in this game. Gonzaga put the clamps on them early. They missed some shots early. They could have had an even bigger lead, but it did not matter. They had already established their dominance in this game right out of the gate, and Kentucky truly never was able to recover. Again, there's not a lot in my notes for the bad parts of this game. I will acknowledge that it was not a great game for Tyon Grant-Foster. While we kind of were celebrating the way that Adam Miller responded to coming off the bench, Tyon, who's kind of been in and out of the starting lineup, it wasn't like an effort issue for him. In fact, he played very good defensively. He had what only went down as 1 block shot, but he really had 2 block shots in this game. Really good defensively. He just didn't do much on offense. 4 points, 1 of 5 shooting, missed his lone 3-point attempt. I thought it was a good shot attempt. The 3 was. Usually he doesn't take very smart threes, but he was wide open. It was a good shot. He just didn't knock it down. He got a little isolation heavy later in the game. That's kind of something that I know Mark Few was working on with him to try to get him more acclimated into the offense. But ultimately, him missing 4 shots and playing good defense is not the worst thing in the world, especially in a game where Gonzaga didn't need him. If they needed him to score and he was failing to do so, that would be a different thing. But in this game, it's a testament to how great and deep this Gonzaga team is that a guy who could easily be this team's third leading scorer, who was a 20-point per game scorer 2 years ago, can have a super off night offensively or be more or less non-existent, and it doesn't prevent Gonzaga from scoring 94 points. It doesn't prevent them from dominating all game long. And I think that's a scary proposition for every other team in college basketball. Well, folks, we haven't even talked about the three-point shooting, but guess what? Gonzaga was great there as well, 50% from three. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get a little bit more into some of the other things Gonzaga did really well in this game. All of that and more coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as soon as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into those moments. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in for every snap, every drive, and every possibility. Don't have lines yet on Gonzaga versus North Florida, but they are at plus 220 to make it to the Final Four. I know there's still some people holding on to that Michigan loss, but man, they look like the Final Four team tonight. We can say that. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, then visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Doer. Folks, the holidays are here, and I'm not stressing about what to wear because I'll be wearing my Doer jeans. These are easily the most comfortable jeans that I own, and they look good. Doer's denim and lifestyle apparel is engineered for movement and versatility. So whether you're on the go, lounging at home, or going to a nice dinner party, Doer is the right fit. I just wore my Doers to see Wicked with my wife. I love that they fit like athletic wear, but they look nice enough to wear for a night out. The fabric is so stretchy, I forget I'm even wearing jeans. And Doer invented the original performance denim, and they give us the best of both worlds, combining classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance that you get from athletic wear. It's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I know that you'll love these. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. You can find Doer at your local Seattle REI location or shop online at shopdoer.com/lockedonseattle, where you'll get 15% off your first order. That's shopdoer, DUER.com/lockedonseattle for 15% off. Shopdoer.com/lockedonseattle. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast, and we're still recapping Gonzaga's incredible 94-59 win over the Kentucky Wildcats. Again, this was number 11 versus number 18 in the AP Top 25, so this will go down as a Top 20 win for the Zags, and they dominated from start to finish. We talked about some of the good and the very little bad from Gonzaga in this game, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look back at the 5 keys to victory that I laid out on Thursday's episode of Locked On Zags, how those things played out on Friday night in Nashville. Key number 1 for us was to crash the offensive glass. Kentucky is actually very good throughout the season at stopping teams from scoring, stopping teams from grabbing offensive rebounds. And actually, Kentucky did have more offensive rebounds than Gonzaga in this game. It was a 12-10 advantage for the Cats in offensive boards. However, Gonzaga ultimately won the rebounding battle, 43-31. And it's a little bit unfair to talk about Gonzaga as if they didn't offensive rebound as well as Kentucky, when considering that Kentucky grabbed 12 offensive rebounds on 44 missed shots compared to Gonzaga, who had 10 offensive rebounds on just 27 missed shots. Context matters here, and Kentucky getting more offensive rebounds than Gonzaga really doesn't say anything other than they had a whole heck of a lot more opportunities to get offensive rebounds than Gonzaga did. The Zags were great on the glass in this one. Malachi Moreno, Kentucky's starting center, their 7-foot, 250-pound behemoth of a freshman, did not get his first rebound until there was 13 minutes left in this game. He finished with just 2. Ismaila Diagne played 4 minutes and had a rebound. Nearly as many rebounds as Moreno, and Moreno played 25 minutes in this game. Gonzaga dominated on the glass as we expected them to do. And while it didn't end up being a significant factor because of how much better Gonzaga shot the ball, it was still good to see them do well in that area. Number 2, we've already talked about this, so we won't spend a ton of time on it. Force feed the paint, get Graham back on track. Check and check. Gonzaga went to him early and often. And again, he struggled a little bit at the beginning of this game. I think Braden Huff missed a bunny like in the second possession of the game. And then Graham missed a couple of bunnies. And for a while, there was a stretch in this game where Gonzaga was up by 20 or so and was 1 of 7 on lay-ins. Like they were not shooting it all that well. And then they just caught absolute fire. And at that point, because Gonzaga had already dominated so much with their defense, and because Kentucky came out as flat as they did, once Gonzaga started actually getting the shots to fall, this thing was long over after that. Phenomenal performance from the bigs. The Zags shot over 60% on 2-pointers in this game. Again, despite those early struggles in this one, Graham Ike had a season high for points 2 minutes into the second half. It was an all-around dominant performance from Gonzaga's bigs. Key number 3 for Gonzaga in this game was to generate turnovers and get out in transition. And again, not a ton of transition points for Gonzaga in this game. In fact, UK actually had 11-8 advantage in fast break points, but that's a 3-point difference is pretty minute overall. But Gonzaga did do a good job of playing the passing lanes, of knocking the ball loose, of getting steals. They seemingly got every single 50-50 ball, which was something the broadcasters brought up and something that I think if I'm Mark Pope, I'm incensed about. I'm mad about the 35-point loss, but I'm also mad of you guys didn't even compete. And again, a shout out to Gonzaga for throughout this game, diving on loose balls, doing whatever they could. There's a point where Graham Ike was falling out of bounds, trying to call a timeout when Gonzaga was up 30. It's like, we don't need to be doing that, but that's just how this team is wired. That's how they play. It's what makes them so good. And it's what makes them, it's part of the coaching of Mark Few and the staff to have this team playing high level basketball, regardless of what the scoreboard says. Did not look like that was happening for Kentucky. That's an issue that they're going to have to deal with internally. But for Gonzaga, again, Kentucky had 8 turnovers in the half. They ended up with just, I think, 11 turnovers as I think Gonzaga got maybe a little bit less aggressive / Kentucky made some adjustments there, but a really good job by Gonzaga. The guards in particular played really well in those passing lanes and making life difficult for Kentucky. Key number 4 for Gonzaga in this game was to find the outside shot, but not to get too complacent shooting the ball from deep. And this was something Gonzaga executed nearly flawlessly in this game. They shot 9 of 18 from 3, 50%. But again, 50% from 3, but it was not a significant part of their shot diet. When they had open looks from 3, they took them. I'm off the top of my head remembering very few, if really any, bad or ill-advised 3-point attempts. Every shot that they took from 3, I thought was the right choice, whether it was late in the shot clock, whether the player was wide open, whether it was both of those things. Again, Tyon took a transition 3 that maybe wouldn't be everybody's favorite shot, but I thought it was a good look. He was pretty much wide open, even though he didn't knock it down. Really strong game from Gonzaga from the perimeter. If they shoot like this, it's going to be scary for everybody else in the college basketball space. And it's worth noting that Gonzaga was much better in the second half when this game was already wrapped up. The Zags were 3 of 11 in the first half, which is 27%. So not great there, but they were 6 of 7, absolute cash money in the second half of this game to finish 9 of 18. Adam Miller, we mentioned him already, 3 of 5 shooting from 3 in this one. Mario was 2 of 5 from 3. Braden Smith, 1 of 2. Graham Ike and Emmanuel Inocente each went 1 of 1 from distance. And then key number 5 for Gonzaga in this one was to take care of the basketball. Kentucky doesn't force a lot of turnovers. That hasn't been a big strength of theirs this season. So really the key was, can the guards come in, the point guards specifically, and calmly handle the ball, deal with the pressure, deal with the size and physicality of Kentucky's guards. I mean, Jalen Lowe played in this game. He's a bigger guard, but even without him, Otega Owe, Colin Chandler, Denzel Aberdeen, they're all big guards. They have a lot of size and physicality. They're all bigger than Braden and Mario. And so it was a concern of how are these guys going to play on the road in a somewhat hostile pseudo road environment? And can they avoid compounding mistakes or making mistakes because Kentucky's not going to take the ball away from them? And I thought they did a great job. Gonzaga only had 4 turnovers in the first half of this game. They only had 1 turnover in the first 10 minutes of this basketball game. Really good job of controlling the pace, Again, Mario dealt with foul trouble, and Smith played excellent in this one. 11.6 rebounds, 6 assists, just 2 turnovers for him. Tremendous performance from Braden, probably his best game in a Gonzaga uniform. Not necessarily Mario's best game because he sat so much of the first half, but he still played well in this one. Still had 6 points, 3 assists, and a pair of 3 rebounds and a pair of assists in this one. And Gonzaga did a really good job of taking care of the basketball. Just 9 turnovers in a game where they scored 94 points. And a lot of those turnovers happened in the final 2 or 3 minutes of this game when the reserves were in the action. So not something to be concerned about. I thought we saw Gonzaga do a really good job of taking care of the basketball in a high possession game on Friday in Nashville. Well, folks, we're going to talk more about this game later, but for now, we're going to get you ready for Sunday's tilt against the Ospreys of North Florida. That game at 6 p.m. at the Kennel on Sunday night. We're going to talk about who this team is, what we want to see from Gonzaga in their next game. All that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, the holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something you wrap. It's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. There's no apps you have to figure out. There's no setup headaches, just instant smiles. It's the perfect gift for new grandparents who want to see their grandkids. This is the perfect person to get this present to. They will love it, I promise you. You can also add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment that it's opened. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, A-U-R-A frames, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. All right, folks, segment 3, still Andy Patton, still locked on Zags, still live less than an hour after Gonzaga's 35-point massacre of the Kentucky Wildcats at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. Zags now up 3-1 in this 6-year series agreed to before the 2022-23 season. So the worst case scenario for Gonzaga is still a split with Kentucky. That is a pretty darn good deal considering where these teams were at when this series was agreed to. Gonzaga obviously needed this one in a big way, a quad 1 win. We'll see if it stays quad 1 the way Kentucky is playing, but for right now it is, and really helps them out in the metrics. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about Gonzaga's game on Sunday. A really tight turnaround between these two teams, or for this Gonzaga team, as they have Saturday off, mostly to just travel back to Spokane, get themselves ready. And then they're going to take on the Ospreys of North Florida, December 7th, 6 p.m. on ESPN Plus at the Kennel. It'll be on Fox 13 Plus in Seattle, and it'll be on local channels in Spokane. Again, no real time to celebrate this win over Kentucky, but certainly not as challenging of an opponent for Gonzaga. This is one of their 4 bye games, and this is probably the biggest of the bye games. Gonzaga's 1-0 all time against North Florida. They played them to open up the 22-23 season, beat them 104-63 in that game. And for what it's worth, KenPom, which projects every game score, basically thinks Gonzaga is going to have the exact same score against them this time. 104-63 is what it was last time. I think KenPom has it as 104-62, something like that. And for good reason. This North Florida team is not good. They are 2-6 on the season, but both their wins have come against non-Division I opponents. They have literally not beat any other team at the Division I level. They have losses to Florida by 40. They have a loss to Tennessee by 33. They have also lost to SIU Edwardsville, Prairie View A&M, Southern Mississippi, and Wofford. They are currently 333rd at KenPom as I record this, which actually means despite not having a single D1 win, North Florida has actually moved up 7 spots at KenPom. They began the season 340th. They have moved up simply by not losing quite as badly to the D1 teams that they have played on the season. Again, not a team that is expected to be competitive with Gonzaga, not a team that has been competitive in their previous games. They are currently 239th in adjusted offensive efficiency at KenPom, but 360th Literally one of the 5 worst teams in all of college basketball in adjusted defensive efficiency at KenPom. Tempo-wise, they are 69th. So they like to go, they like to push. They do score a good amount of points because they shoot a ton of threes, but this is not a team that is going to really significantly challenge Gonzaga. They are a small team and they play like it. Currently, according to either KenPom or Basketball Reference for these stats, they are 353rd in college basketball in blocks per game. They are 344th in rebounds per game. They are 331st in free throw attempts per game. This team is not generating blocks. They're not getting a lot of rebounds. They're not getting to the free throw line, but they do take 32 threes per game. That's a lot. I think it's like top 40, top 50 in the country in terms of 3-point attempts per game. They also make them at a 37% clip, which is really, really good. This team is a shockingly good and effective 3-point shooting team. They just are not good at pretty much anything else so far this season. They also, this was one of my favorite stats, especially coming off of this game and what it means for Gonzaga going forward. This team gives up the most offensive rebounds in the country. Gonzaga should absolutely feast. There's really no reason for basically every one of Gonzaga's possessions to not lead 2 points, because if they do miss the shot, they should be gobbling up rebounds at like a 50-55% clip in this game. There's nobody in North Florida's rotation who's over 6'8". There's only one player who is 6'8" on the roster. They have no size. They do not rebound well. Again, Gonzaga should be able to roll to a win in this one. They will have to defend the perimeter. There are a lot of good 3-point shooters on this team and a lot of very willing 3-point shooters on this North Florida team. Cameron Oriol is their leading scorer, 17.5 points per game. He also shoots 43% from 3 on 6.5 attempts per game. That is lights out. That is elite production from 3. There are not a lot of dudes in all of college basketball at any level who are shooting over 43% from 3 on over 6 attempts per game. That is rarefied territory, even at this level. Even against this competition, that is rare for somebody like Oriol to be putting up those kind of numbers. They also have Kent Jackson, 12.5 points per game, a little under 3 assists per game. He's only shooting 34% from 3, but folks, he's taken 8.5 of them per game. We're talking like Caleb Love, Kerr Kriisa. Like, I'm not looking to pass the basketball. I'm looking to shoot it if I have a split second of space type of baller here in Kent Jackson. BJ Plummer, also one of their bigger guys, 9.5 points, 2.5 boards per game, 57.7% from 3. Nearly 58% from 3 for Plummer. And if you're thinking, okay, well, he's only taking like 7 threes per game, on the season, he's taking 3.5 per game. That's a pretty good an elite efficiency on a pretty high volume for this team. So if there's one thing that this team can do, it is absolutely light it up from 3. But their lack of rebounding, their lack of size, this should not be a competitive game for Gonzaga. In fact, I would expect that it's going to look maybe not exactly like the Southern Utah game where Gonzaga scored 123 points, but it wouldn't be surprising if they're well over 100 in that 105-110 territory. Again, according to KenPom, this is one of the 5 worst defensive teams in all of college basketball, so should not be a ton of challenge for Gonzaga. I think in terms of things you want to see from Gonzaga in this game, because it'll be their last game before they have the rest of the week off, leading into that matchup with UCLA on Saturday in Seattle. I think what I'll be interested in is, will Gonzaga keep the same starting lineup that they had in this game against Kentucky? Will Steele Venters and Emmanuel Nicente start? Will Adam Miller re-enter the lineup? Will Tyon Grant Foster start? That's something that I'll be paying attention to. But I think beyond that, it's going to be a very a game with a lot of different guys getting a ton of action. I'd be shocked if Graham and Braden played more than 20 minutes in this game. I'd be surprised really if anybody played more than 20 minutes in this game. Like there shouldn't be anybody over 22, 23 minutes in this one. The point guard should split duty in this one. I think you'll see a lot of Davis Fogle, like we have throughout the season in these types of games, where he had a phenomenal performance against Southern Utah, all coming in the final 10 minutes. He did the same thing against Texas Southern. And the fact that Fogle has gotten a chance to play in some of these other marquee games, he got to play against Michigan, he got to play against Kentucky tonight, he got to play, I think he played against Maryland as well. He hasn't done a ton in those games, but it's not his fault. I mean, it's the final 2 to 3 minutes of a blowout game, there's just, not a lot of opportunities to do anything. But I think it's good for him to get a chance to compete against that level of size and physicality, because we've seen what Davis Fogle can do against inferior competition. We saw what he did against Texas Southern. We saw, more importantly, what he did against Southern Utah. We know that that's in the bag for him. And I want to see him get an extended run in this game against North Florida, but it won't improve him, I think, as much as even those 3 to 4 minute spurts against teams like Michigan and Kentucky, where I think he's getting a better kind of experience going up against athletes that are more like the athletes that he's going to face as a regular part of Gonzaga's rotation. So I'm happy to see him play 10, 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes in this game against North Florida. I hope he puts up another 20-point game and dominates as a mid-range scorer, because that builds his confidence. But I think that the other experiences that he's getting, while they're not as flashy, while he's not putting up numbers, are arguably just as, if not more important for his long-term development. Same thing with Ismaila Diagne. We'd love to see him get some action in this game, take advantage of his size, score around the rim, continue to work on his defense away from the rim, navigating screens, things like that, continue to work on his offensive bag, his versatility there. We haven't really seen that develop yet, because most of the time he plays, it's against inferior opponents, and he's the tallest guy on the floor by a half a foot at some times, so he's just able to dominate with that. So another opportunity where it's probably going to look more like that for Diagne, but still good to get him stretching his legs and get him out on the floor as well. Folks, that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. What a night. What a day for the Zags. 750 career wins for Mark Few, and this was one of the most fun ones that I can remember. We're going to talk more about this game. We're going to talk more about that North Florida game after it happens next week, and of course, we'll get you ready for that big-time matchup against the Bruins of UCLA as well. Thanks again, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your day and weekend. I know that you will, and of course, as always, go Zags.